Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to a Gran Turismo 7 race review from Daily Race A. Yes, your eyes and your ears do not deceive you, Womble Leader is actually doing a video on something other than Daily Race C. So this is a concept that I've actually done numerous times as a members only content video. We jump into Daily Race A with no practice whatsoever and we see if we can get onto the podium in 3 races. It's actually something I really quite enjoy doing. Especially if it's a fairly fun car and track combination as this one was. Now it's not this week's Daily Race A, it's actually last week's Daily Race A at Watkins short course. We're in the Nissan R34 GTR Nürburgring edition and we've got 6 laps to get round, and we're even going to do this race in cockpit view. So the first race is underway, it's a standing start and this race goes, well, it goes as well as you would expect a race to go when you've done no practice whatsoever. So whenever I drive a road car in Gran Turismo 7, I quite like to put on active stability management, or stability active management active stability. It's one of them, isn't it? So yeah, that was the first time we had gone into the chicane there. Now I had heard the car could be a little bit tricky going through that sequence of corners, and yes, our car decided to get a little bit of a wobble on, as you've seen. But we're down into P10, and then just to make matters worse, we're going to pick up a track limit penalty here. Genuinely, when I went into this race, I had, well, I will say one thing, I knew how to do the first corner. If you've watched the video about the penalty system, you will have seen I had done the first corner numerous times in this car. So I knew where to brake for the first corner. I had no idea how to drive the car for the rest of it. And somewhat ironically, given that video, if you've watched it, was about track limits penalties, me basically saying, you know, learn the track limits, learn to work with them, don't get too frustrated about them. Somewhat ironically, I spent the entirety of this first race picking up track limit penalties. We're going to pick up another one here, and we're up to 2 seconds by the time we start lap 2. So that was pretty much my race over in this one. Was not the last track limit penalty I picked up either. But we managed to kind of learn what we could do over the course of this race and get a feel for where to brake for each of the corners. So the first race, given we had no practice whatsoever, not a surprise we finished down in P10. Somebody did have a worse race than us, but we learnt a lot as we move into race number 2. So doing this one with no qualifying yet, we will qualify for the next one if required. We're going to head down into turn 1 here. We are in P1, nice and comfortable for us. Into the first corner, it all looks fairly sane. Nobody doing anything too mental whatsoever. And then we're going to come up through the S's here. We're going to get tucked in behind Wild Predator here. Nowhere to go. It's going to try and give them a little bit of a bump draft, but unfortunately the driver behind me decides that they're going to kind of put the nose into the side of my car, pushing me out wide. I was impressed with that one, as you can tell from my reaction. This is Daily Race A, folks. You know, elbows are out. You can't let these little indiscretions go unanswered, or people just take liberties of you. That's what I've been told anyway. That's what I've been told. You have to be quite brash. You have to be a little bit elbows out in Daily Race A. And I think in these kind of big heavy cars, which are quite close, you know, racing, it kind of lends itself to that kind of racing, doesn't it? Now, did we get a half second there? I would have thought not. Yeah, we guessed it right. No, we do, bloody hell. I didn't think we went wide there. I forgot about that penalty. Certainly not learning my own lessons anyway, am I? Up to P6 though, we went round the outside there of the Belgian driver, and we're going to maintain that position through the last corner, making sure we do not drift too wide on the last corner to pick up another penalty. Do we get a penalty there? I actually did these races about 3 or 4 days ago, so I can't really remember exactly what happened, but yeah, we served that penalty. We're going to jump forward here to lap 3, and we are back in P1, and we have got a little bit of a run on the Italian in front of us, but we're not going to go for the move into the chicane here. That would be silly, because, well, I wasn't silly. Apparently the French driver, Chris bloody again, that French driver again being a little bit rude into the chicane there. Thankfully, they came off far worse than we did, and that's the last we're going to see of them for this one. So making sure we keep the car well within the track limits. I don't know if it's because we're racing in cockpit view. Maybe it's just quite hard to judge the width of the car sometimes from cockpit view. I would really love it, honestly, PD, if you could just give us some FOV options so that I could race all cars in cockpit view, because the immersion that you get when you drive in cockpit is just so much more, honestly, it really is, and I really do enjoy driving in this view when I can. But the Italian there goes wide into the last corner. We go for the move down the straight. We're well ahead of them by the time we get to the braking zone, but of course they decide on this occasion you can actually brake on the 200 board rather than the 300 board and use our car as a brake. Me and Italians just do not get on very well in this game, do we? It always seems to be the Italian drivers that I have a little bit of trouble with. Anyways, obviously I was not best pleased with that move. I think that was the second time. Oh no, it was the French driver into the chicane, wasn't it? But yeah, wasn't particularly happy with that move from Mech Race, and yeah, I'm just giving them a little tap on the backside there just to show my disgruntlement. And it ends up that we both make a complete and utter cluster of the chicane. Now they make a bigger cluster of it than we do. The suspension working overtime in both our cars to keep us pointing in the right direction. Plus we deservedly pick up a 1 second penalty for the track cut. So Mech Race is going to serve a penalty here, so it is going to allow us to move ahead. We'll serve our penalty on the next lap. And a big shout out, by the way, to the Swedish driver behind me, who had shown remarkable patience with the sort of carry-on that was going on in front of him between me and Mech Race. But as we serve that penalty, the Swedish driver moves up into P5. Wild Predator also serving a penalty here as well. So Wild Predator maybe has dirty tyres. They go a little bit wide there. We're going to go for a cheeky move down the inside into the last corner. That's a nice overtake. Keep it nice and tight. No contact whatsoever. And I've got a funny feeling I know what's about to happen here. Yes, the half-second penalty. I really need to kind of probably study the track limits a bit closer on that corner from an external view. But we served that penalty, we kept the position, and we finished in P6 in that one. So a marked improvement over the first race, I think it's fair to say. So we jumped into qualifying, we did a 121.5, and that was good enough for us to start in P3 for race number 3. So all we have to do in this one is maintain our position, and we will achieve the no practice to podium in 3 races. So getting off the line reasonably well, the car, the French driver who we had a little bit of trouble with on our inside. So we're going to take a nice wide line into turn 1. Looks like we're okay. We have lost a position, then it all goes a little bit Pete Tong, and yeah, it turned out that qualifying was for nothing, folks, because we're all the way down and momentarily down in P9. So yeah, raging, as you can imagine. Now, it was just a racing incident what kind of happened in front of us. I think one of the drivers got sideways in front of us, we made contact, we got slowed down, everybody was able to barrel through us. But we're going to sort of stay on board for the majority of this race, because it's actually quite a decent race, to be honest with you, and we make some good moves. So let's see how quickly we can progress through the field here. We've got Rubber Jumbo going a little bit wide there, getting a good line, a good exit though, off that corner. Is there going to be any penalties to be served here? No, but we do have the run on Rubber Jumbo down into the second last corner. Not a move I would maybe normally go for, I mean, we do actually back out of it. But it's going to give them a little bit of a compromised line. They have ran wide, so they're going to be picking up a penalty for that. Hopefully by this point we have very much learned to keep the car within those pesky track limits. Very critical to not pick up penalties in this one, as I learned from the first 2 races. But yeah, we're going to get the better line down into turn 1. We're going to make a nice move, braking on the 300, keeping a nice tight line, and slotting into P Wombo behind Salty GTR Ire, who had shown good pace. I think they've been in all 3 races. They'd shown some good pace in the previous 2 races as well. So if we can follow them through, we should be able to make up a few positions. So coming up to the bus stop here, this is a corner that was never easy in this car throughout the 3 races. I braked just before the 400 board, and then just kind of minimal kind of steering inputs to try and keep that back end in check. Hopefully the active stability management does its job as well. Honestly, I think in road cars, active stability management is a real help. And I don't have any problems with using it whatsoever, because I just feel that all these cars, every kind of road car out there does have a stability management program keeping it on the road surface. So I feel like it's a legit assist to use in a car like this. But we're going to move up into P6. We got a better run than Juby Tubes off the fast downhill right-hander, and I think they actually probably light off the throttle into the second last corner as well, so I appreciate that. But that was up into P6, so making some progress here, and yeah, starting to get on top of the car and the track limits by this third race as well. Just got to be very careful, just make sure you get the car in, just don't give the penalty system any kind of choice to make, you know. Just, you know, there's so many corners around this track where the slightest indiscretion can see you get one of those track limits penalties. So by this race I was driving very much within them and just giving the game no choice to make. That was my strategy going forward. So we'll just fast forward to the next piece of action, which is at the end of lap 3 here. The Spanish driver coming into the second last corner, going to get a little bit of a drift on. There's also the Belgian driver who's way off the track. I never actually noticed that at the time, only just noticing it here as we do the commentary. So that moves up into P5. We're going to get a decent run off the last corner here. Going to get down the outside of the Spanish driver, suspecting maybe exited there in third gear. So as they change up gear, it allows us to move ahead by the time we get to the braking zone. Of course, they're not going to try and just settle in. They're going to brake a little bit late, but it was a better effort than the French driver, to be fair. Sorry, the Italian driver from the last race. We allow them to go deep. We cut back underneath them, and that moves us up into P4. One position away from that podium, and there is a bit of a decent gap to the drivers in front of us. But as we jump forward here to the end of lap 5, our French friend Chris has served a penalty, and we've also been catching him as well. So coming on to the last lap here of race number 3, there was the potential to maybe pick up a podium, and we get a nice boost out the last corner. Again, I think they're probably exiting in third gear. That's going to allow us to go down the inside, nice and controlled on the brakes, hit that apex, make sure we don't go over the red and yellow curb, and that's us up into P3. We will have to defend probably down into the chicane, but as long as we keep a nice tight line through the S's and keep it to the right hand side of the track, it will be very difficult for the French driver to take that position back of us. So it's all in our own hands now. No practice to podium in 3 races. They didn't really go for the move. We kind of parked the car in the middle of the track anyway, nice and controlled through the chicane. We were getting very much on top of the car, and track combination by this point started setting lap times that were, I guess, a 121.8 seems relatively respectable. Only a 10th off the fastest lap in this one. I'm sure if we did a bit more practice and maybe possibly went to hood view, we may be sort of getting towards the low 21s for pace wise. But yeah, just a case of keeping it within the track limits at this point. We're not going to catch the 2 cars ahead, and coming out the last corner, no problems whatsoever. And that's going to allow us to finish in third place, so no practice to podium in 3 races, even stealing the fastest lap on the last lap there as well. Enjoyable though, a very enjoyable combination. I do quite like the road cars now in Gran Turismo, and I quite like the fact that I can kind of jump into these and no practice, I can play in cockpit view, there's no driver rating to worry about. You do have to worry about your sportsmanship rating. You can see there's a few drivers there with the old red S's, but yeah, decent race, and yeah, quite enjoyable. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you like me to do more of this kind of content? Obviously, we mostly do kind of guides and opinion pieces and stuff like that. Very rarely touch race reviews, but maybe some of you out there quite enjoy this kind of thing. Let me know in the comments. But thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.